Okay, so, little known fact. I like video games. Lesser known fact, I like video games with huge ensemble casts. Fighting games with combatants from all over the world, RPGs with a lovable group of companions, MOBAs filled with all the colorful heroes and villains the human imagination can conjure up, and of course team-based shooters. Like Overwatch. Like most people, the game immediately caught my attention with its vast and varied characters, and despite the depression-inducing realization that the gameplay only has the bare minimum to do with the lore, the story, or indeed the characters themselves, I still find myself enjoying the various heroes' designs, backstories, quips, and overall personalities. Well, most of them. In this video, I'd like to take a look at one of the characters and see what works and what doesn't. In my opinion, of course. Yours may differ. And let's be honest, it probably will. The first hero, finger quotes here, thank you, I'd like to take a look at is the fallen from grace assassin herself, Amelie Lacrosse, also known as Widowmaker. Also known as, for the love of God, just switch to anybody else! Or, don't worry guys, if she's not working, I'll switch to somebody else. 20 seconds before the round ends. Now, I'd put Widowmaker in the does not work category, or more appropriately, works in concept, less so in execution, for three main reasons, which I will get into right now. Number 1. She's kind of a boring concept. I know, I just said literally 24 words ago that she works in concept, less so in execution, and here I am calling the concept itself bad, but hear me out. The idea of a femme fatale kind of sniper works and is a cool place to start, but the problem comes when you get a little more specific with her personality, as much as she has one. You see, in the majority of fiction, snipers, sharpshooters, and your general ranged assassins come in two and only two flavors. The carefree, jokey, charming one that is usually hiding the weight of his or her conscience for killing people behind a facade of humor and levity, and the cold-blooded, stoic, silent one, usually with a dry wit and a big dash of sarcasm, who might be so reserved because he or she too suffers from some moral dilemma regarding their occupation as an eradicator of their fellow man, or they're simply a straight-up psychopath to begin with, or sociopath. Whichever the psychology community decides can refer to Hannibal Lecter instead of Trevor Phillips. And Amelie Lacrosse, or no guys, I got 3 kills in the last 5 minutes, I'm doing good, reads as a kind of checklist / parody of the Type 2 sniper. She literally has no feelings besides the adrenaline rush from killing, she rarely speaks except for a demeaning remark or sarcastic quip, and due to her altered physiology, her heart rate is slowed down, turning her skin cold and blue. Dapper D. Dapper die. You're welcome. She's as close to a literal cold-blooded killer as you can get without recruiting someone from the secret society of lizard people conspiracy theorists like to think occupy the White House. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm fully aware that the majority of the Overwatch cast, the overcast, can be summed up with pretty much one word. A ninja, a samurai, a cowboy, a veteran, a monk, a DJ, a gamer, a Gimli, a monkey, scientist, and Pudge. But despite those simplistic concepts, most of the characters have something to make them a bit more intriguing than their initial descriptions would imply. Take McCree for example. He's the quintessential cowboy with the hat, the revolver, sudden drawl, and good old boy values. But there's something that makes him a bit more interesting than Widowmaker. Perhaps it's his shady past with the Deadlock Gang, the fact that he was mentored by Gabriel Die Reyes, or maybe it's just that he's voiced by the amazing Matt Mercer. I don't know. Number 2. Her backstory's a bit too messed up. Overwatch has its fair share of characters with spectacularly traumatic backstories, whether it's getting betrayed by your best friend and being presumed dead, having your brothers rise up and kill your mentor / father figure, or just getting horribly maimed and mutilated by your older brother. For older brothers are not to be trusted. But despite these less than enviable backgrounds, Widowmakers or I have similar relations with 3 so I'm not the problem backstory always struck me as, again, a bit too much. Like, just too dark. First she gets kidnapped by what is essentially Overwatch's equivalent of Cobra, then she gets tortured and brainwashed to kill her own husband, then gets experimented on, which I'm assuming must not have been pleasant, to remove all traces of emotion and slow her heart rate down, turning her into the aforementioned lizard person, to go and kill the people she once considered her, or at least her husband's friends. So we have kidnapping, torture, eradication of identity, forced mariticide, human experimentation, and some hellish existence with no emotion except for bloodlust and anger. Wow. The way this poor woman's been treated, you'd think Blizzard gave the writing duties up to Frank Miller. Anyway, it just follows a tad bit close to the dreaded grim and gritty style of backstory that comic book characters suffered from in the 90s, when every villain was a mass-murdering psycho, or socio, whatevs, and every hero had a conga line of dead lovers and relatives they could constantly brood over. And to me, it's just a bit too jarring when compared to the Team Fortress 2 mixed with Big Hero 6 with a dash of the Incredibles feel the game has overall. And no, it's not just because she's a woman. I'd feel the same way if the character was a Y chromosome sporting Marcus Phoenix looking mother hugger, since it would still be an over-the-top way of characterizing someone. Number 3. She's not really a villain. The best villains in fiction are evil, or at least morally questionable, due to their beliefs, personalities, flaws, and shortcomings. Whether you're a misanthropic anarchist who believes that humans are all selfish, vile creatures who only keep their most vicious tendencies in check because of the repercussions society threatens them with, or a well-meaning extremist who falls prey to his own ego and ambition, thus becoming a self-appointed god and tyrant, the point still stands that it's something internal that leads them to the path of delicious villainy. Not so much with Widowmaker, or... since there's nothing more satisfying than a teammate who doesn't even take the effort to respond. See also 99% of Hanzo mains. Sure, it's her quote-unquote personality that makes her want to kill, but that personality comes from a completely forced and mechanical source, namely Talon. That's the evil organization, by the way. Amelie did not get tempted to join some villainous group, and she did not fall into bad company due to a reckless behavior or overconfident personality, or anything of the sort. She did not get tricked into becoming a killing machine in the hopes of saving someone she loves, quite the opposite actually, or anything that has to do with her as a character at all. Her getting kidnapped and turned into Miss Murderbot treats her character as pretty much an object. Talon might as well have stolen her husband's car and set it to explode, then throw the wreckage at the rest of the Overwatch agents. This also goes into the problem Overwatch has with its character distribution, namely that the villains are severely outnumbered. As of writing, there are currently 22 characters in Overwatch, 23 if Sombra ever gets released. What? She's out? Oh. Guess that shows you how long it took me to actually finish this video. Anyway, out of the 23 characters, only 5 of them can be considered villains or villainous, namely Reaper, Widowmaker, Roadhog, and Junkrat. And Sombra, of course, who's obviously out. But I'd argue that Roadhog and Junkrat don't really count because A, they're more chaotic neutral than lawful evil, making them more like bandits or outlaws compared to the corrupt and amoral members of Talon or even Wishkar. B, they're kinda simple-minded to be considered genuine villains. They're pretty much the Rocksteady and Bebop to Reaper's Shredder, if you get what I'm going at. Sure, they hate Omnics with the passion of 1,000 graviton surges, but again, it kind of pales in comparison to the remorseless, hateful mass murderers of the other big bads. So that leaves us with Sombra, Reaper, and Widowmaker, and I'd argue that Sombra is on flimsy legs as well, especially with those shoes, since we don't know if she's actually a villain, an anti-hero, some sort of extremist, or one of those playing along with the villains but actually have my own agenda types. Now, Reaper is perfect as a villain, no fault there. He's over the top, constantly angry, hates pretty much everything, and probably listens to insert your choice of edgy music here. He's pretty much a Saturday morning cartoon villain, and that's fine. But Widow, setting aside the fact that it's her programming that's actually the villain, not Amelie Lacroix herself, there's still the issue of her reminiscing about her dead husband in a mournful manner. You don't do a brainwash-turned-evil story arc and not have a point where the character overcomes his/her new identity. So she's just a redemption arc waiting to happen. Except not really, since in order to be redeemed you'd have to do something bad to begin with, and succumbing to torture and brainwashing is probably not one of the 7 deadly sins. At least I hope not. So that leaves us with only poor Reaper as an honest-to-God villain who actually fell from grace, became a victim of his own hubris and pride, etc, etc. Overall, Widowmaker's more of a tool than an actual antagonist. Boom, done. Now, I could probably end the video right here and spare you of more of my vichyssoise or verbiage, but that's not the world we live in. You see, as much as I love criticism, I happen to love constructive criticism even more. So instead of me just poo-pooing all over someone else's hard work, nitpicking it all to hell and calling it a day, that was not a jab at any or all critics by the way, honest, I'd like to present an alternate take on this character's backstory and general situation. Who knows? Maybe you'll like it and agree, or more likely you'll consider me coming up with ideas a calamity on par with the Black Plague. Or just plain disagree, I suppose. So, let's get into it. From the get-go, Amelie Lacroix is a freelance assassin with a hedonistic lifestyle. Luxurious hotels, fine clothing, and nothing but the fanciest clubs and restaurants. Kind of a Selena Kyle/Catwoman thing going on, except instead of burglary, she keeps up her quality of life through contract killing. No husband, just the occasional fling. One day, she is approached by Talon with a proposal. They want to test out a new serum that can enhance an individual's traits to an almost inhuman degree. Heightened senses, quicker reflexes, the works. Again, a sort of super soldier serum type of affair, except it's made by the bad guys. Talon, being the ever so thoughtful group of individuals they are, warn Lacroix that there may be side effects, but are obviously dedicated to removing said drawbacks, if they should occur, as well as paying her a hefty sum for the process itself, regardless of the outcome. Now I'm sure you'll all see where this is going, so let us not beat around the bush, and just say that while our hedonistic sniper had her doubts and worries about the whole affair, the promise of an enormous paycheck as well as that of enhanced abilities was too great to refuse. So she didn't. Meaning she agreed. The experiment itself goes through swimmingly, and Amelie is granted a hefty sum of money for her troubles, and gets to keep her wonderful new skills as a bonus, without any drawbacks. At first anyways. See, as the days go by, the once energetic and passionate sniper begins to feel more and more bored. Things she once cherished, her magnificent collection of art, her priceless jewelry, her circle of equally vain and shallow friends, just don't cut it anymore. Her entire lifestyle became worthless to her, gaining nothing from all that she has accumulated over the years. The only time she comes close to having an actual emotional response to something is, you guessed it, during assignments. The thrill of the kill is the one thing that can still make her feel something close to joy or excitement. Any other time, it's just nothing. Having realized her predicament, Amélie Lacroix contacts the people responsible for her condition, demanding they fix it and return her to her old self. Naturally, Talon is shocked by the news that their work had some unwanted side effects and promised to immediately get to work on a cure. Of course, that could take some time. And since poor Amélie is in such distress, why not help her alleviate her situation? Why not work for Talon till all this is resolved? After all, they'll always have something for her to do. For her sake, of course. Now, I'm not saying this is some instant classic award-winning piece of writing right there, but in my opinion it does help with the issues I raised with the original idea. For one, you actually know something about her before the whole Talon/Overwatch ordeal. She's vain, narcissistic, and already a killer instead of some dude's wife. Secondly, it's her own shortcomings that end up making her a full-fledged antagonist, namely greed and over-ambition. She had a choice to refuse Talon's proposition, even though they probably would have gone after her anyway, but that could have resulted in another series of events landing her on one side or the other, but she chose to go through with it since the benefits were so tempting. This doesn't necessarily make her a sympathetic character, since anyone who makes a living by killing indiscriminately is hard to feel sorry for, but at least gives some shades of grey to her character. And third, it kind of gives Talon a more sinister and manipulative feel. Instead of the bullheaded "all your wife all belong to us" strategy, it requires them to be excellent judges of character and to be willing to play the long game, patiently waiting out the inevitable outcome they've already predicted. Just a little more stylish than straight up kidnapping. Anyway, those were my thoughts on Widowmaker overall. Not a bad character per se, just could have been a bit more interesting with a few tweaks, I think. If you've stuck around till the end of the video, I commend you. I'll probably do another one sometime in the near future, focusing on someone I view in a more positive light, but until then, let me know down below what you think of Widowmaker. Could have used some tweaking? Fine as it is. Maybe you have someone else you'd prefer to have a different backstory. Write your own ideas and observations, so I can shamelessly steal them, since I'm curious to know how the community views these guys and girls we spend so much time with nowadays. Oh yeah, and don't forget to sub-like this video and follow me on Facebook and read me on Tweetbook and all that jazz. Thanks!